Hey guys, it's Retro Nerd Gamer here, and today I'm going to be doing a sort of double feature here. I'm going to review Metroid Prime for the GameCube, and also maybe comment on the Wii version that comes with Metroid Prime Trilogy, and I'm also gonna be doing a review for Metroid Fusion, which is for the Game Boy Advance. So let's start off with Metroid Prime, one of my favorite games, especially in terms of the FPS genre, first person shooters. It was done very well. It's a very fun game, and honestly I would recommend, if you can play it. Especially with the news of, Metroid Prime 4 being announced, and that, it'll be released hopefully sometime soon. We don't know what's going on yet. Hopefully we get some news or announcements this year, even especially well and good if it comes out this year, but I highly doubt that. So anyway, to get into Prime 1, the story starts out with Samus. There's some sort of she's going on a space pirate ship because they're always up to bad stuff. And as she goes through it, she kills some space pirates, all that. But then it turns out, as she's exploring, the reactor core goes critical, and like always, she has to escape before it explodes, because it ain't a Metroid game without Samus having to escape an exploding ship or planet or something. So after that, as she escapes, she notices her nemesis Ridley, and seems like he has some like kind of like metallic implants, I guess, because of their fights in Zero Mission, which is the first Metroid game. And so he escapes, and she chases him into the planet that the ship was orbiting. She loses track of him, and she has to land in some sort of like field or whatever on the planet Talon 4. And from there, the adventure begins. Like I said, it's a FPS first person shooter. It's very well done. It just everything about it, the music, the gameplay, the story, everything is phenomenal. Even the sound effects. And she just goes exploring the planet, and she finds out like some ruins that are from the Chozo, which actually raised her and gave her the power suit she has. So I guess she decides, I'm gonna try to figure this out while I try to find Ridley and like take care of the space pirates. And once you get into it, you're searching for some artifacts to unlock the ruins, and you start delving deep into a plot with the space pirates that they're trying to use Phazon to power themselves up to do evil stuff. So after that, turns out they're using Metroids for their Phazon experiments, and it kind of starts going wrong because there's just a lot of stuff that they say, and like there's logs that you can scan, like all this stuff, like lore, and it's just like it's not looking good. This is like the start of the Phazon crisis, which spans across the three Prime games that are out right now. I don't know what's going on with Prime 4. That's something we'll have to find out when it comes out. But for now, this is the start of it. There's a lot of stuff going on with the Phazon. You go searching for abilities like you always do in a Metroid game. You just, it's a very nice open world. And honestly, Metroid Prime is quite a great game. It's one pretty perfect to me, but objectively I'd say it's near perfection. It's now nowhere near like it's not perfect, but it's near perfect. They just did such a great job with it. So overall, it's a great game. If you like first person shooters, I definitely recommend it. If you like Metroid, I recommend it. It's just such a great game. The only issues that I see with it is that it might seem a little fetch questy, especially with the artifacts, because they're not apparently obvious where they are, and I can find that frustrating. Like, because fetch quests are never fun. But once like you start getting into the action, it's just such a great, it's such a well done game that you can ignore any flaws it has. At least in my opinion, that's my opinion. One thing definitely that it has issues with is the fact that some of the logs, which give a lot of lore and stuff, don't appear apparent, and story heaviness of it might be a little shocking if you're coming from the 2D Metroid games. The only other thing I can say about it is that like the items are a little difficult to find, especially near the middle to the end of the game. But once you get there, it's pretty freaking awesome to try out all the abilities you get and all that. But yeah, Metroid Prime is definitely worth your time, and it's like I said, if you like FPS games, this is a must play. And if you like Metroid or if you want to get into it, I think this is a great game to start with. And yeah, that's my thoughts on Metroid Prime. It's something that everyone should play at least once in their life, and yeah. So now getting into Metroid Fusion, since this is a double feature after all. This is my favorite Metroid game of all time. It has a lot of story in it, which some might find a detriment to the series, but I think it really helps it in a great way because it helps you to tie everything together. And since it's the end of the timeline as we know it, I can see why they made it story heavy. We don't know if we're gonna get a game after it, like a Metroid 5 or like a sequel to it. So at this point, I think it's a great way to end off the series if it's finished. Like, we're not getting anything after Fusion in timeline wise. But the gameplay is very tight, even though it has some restrictive issues that it doesn't let you do what you want, and it just doesn't have that open world feel that all the other Metroid games have. But I think that does it a great service because no matter what, it's a nice change from what the series is usually about, and it might seem a little hand-holdy at times, where like it just tells you what to do and where to go. But the thing that I like is that after all that hand-holdiness towards the middle of the game, probably towards the end game, it just starts like telling you like you know what to do, go do it, or like it just tells you like yeah, just go find where you have to go and what you have to do by yourself. And at that point, I think it gets really good because like this whole time it's like, oh man, it's holding my hand, it's telling me where to go. I really don't like this, but then it gives you that freedom when it's most appropriate. Now, there's not much to say about Metroid Fusion. It's a very great game. It's my favorite in the series, and it really fleshes out the story of the series very well. At least in my opinion, it helps to tie things together and stuff. And I always find myself coming back to it, and there's like just something about the story just like clicks. It's like, oh wow, that's what that means, or like things like that. Like it's really cool. I highly recommend it if you're a Metroid fan or if you're a sci-fi fan in general. This would be a series to really get into, especially with these two games. They came out side by side pretty much, like I think either at the same time or very close to each other, and they actually have some connectivity with each other, at least in the GameCube version of Metroid Prime. So the connectivity is that if you connect Metroid Fusion with Prime GameCube, it gives you an option to have the Fusion play the game Metroid Prime with the Fusion suit. And I think that is one of the coolest Easter egg kind of additions, like connectivity kind of things, that it just was like wow, to be able to see the Fusion suit in 3D like that. And just play through Metroid Prime like that is just really cool in my opinion. Like, you know, you get a bonus for having both of them and playing them and all that. There's also connectivity with Metroid Zero Mission, which actually this art here is from on the left. That's from Samus Returns, but it's a Zero Mission callback. But you could have some additional stuff in Zero Mission with connecting with Fusion. I think it gives you the Fusion gallery, which gives you all the images plus Japanese only images. I actually have both versions here. The on the left is Metroid Fusion English, and on the right is the Japanese version. The Japanese version is actually really good. It it has a hard mode, it has a gallery, it adds stuff that the English version never got for some reason. I think because that one released first, the English version, and then the Japanese one came after that. So to get into this real quick, to finish off the video, this is the Prima official guide, which is both Metroid Prime and Metroid Fusion guides in one. This is a very helpful guide if you can get your hands on it. It has maps, it tells you where everything is, how to get it, enemies, etc., bosses. That's for Prime. And then the Fusion one I think is a little smaller, but it's understandable because it's not as big as the Metroid Prime or whatever. So yeah, it has maps again, tells you story, etc. It has strategies on beating bosses and all that. It's a very simple guide, but it works for what it's supposed to do. But yeah, so these are two very great games, and I would recommend if you're gonna get into the series, you gotta try out these two at least. See if you like them. Maybe you might like 2D more than 3D, you know. But they're both two games, great games to get into the series with, and it's just really cool to be able, like, Samus is one of my favorite characters, especially female wise, and I just hope, you know, we get something new this year, some news. But yeah, so this has been Retro Nerd Gamer, and if you like the video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Ciao.